Hello, I'm Bob the Booker and welcome to my channel. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about a book that I've lovingly praised in various other places, but really wanted to give a sort of more solo review to, and that is The Night Alphabet by Joelle Taylor. Apologies in advance for this sort of slightly different setup. I'm looking after a dog, as you may have guessed. He will probably at some point appear in the background. There we go. And as a result, apologies if the vocals. I'm going to sing for you. No, apologies if the audio is a little bit different as a result, because I'm sort of essentially a peek behind the curtain is that I'm basically just yelling at a tripod, which, is how I spend most of my time. But anyway, Joelle Taylor's The Night Alphabet is just such a glorious book, and I really, really wanted to talk about it. I will talk about some spoilers later. I don't actually really want to go too much into some of the spoilers anyway. But just be warned, I'll let you know before I go into some more kind of spoiler territory. But I think a large part of what I want to talk about with this book isn't really in the spoiler side of things anyway. So let's get started talking about this wonderful book. So a bit of background context. So Joelle Taylor, prior to this, is sort of typically a poet with some sort of writing for theatre and various other bits as well, but typically a poet. And her poetry is fantastic. It's her kind of most famous collection is Canto and Othered Poems. And it is a collection that I just think is glorious in so many ways. If you ever have the opportunity to hear Joelle Taylor perform in any capacity, even just reading from a dictionary, do it, because Joelle Taylor is exceptional, and we're incredibly lucky to have her as part of the kind of queer canon of just an exceptional writer. But anyway, the collection Canto and Othered Poems is just remarkable, I think, in so many ways. That collection takes at its heart kind of various personal anecdotes, and particularly the stories of women who were kind of lost in many ways, either through hate crime or through sort of just the trials and tribulations of life. And Joelle Taylor tells their stories in a really moving way of really looking a lot at sexual violence and gender and sexuality and so many other things, particularly for queer women, particularly for sort of more masculine presenting women, and the kind of mask kind of butch women that she talks about so lovingly in that collection of poems. I just think it's remarkable. It's such a well done collection. And why am I telling you all of this when we're talking about her novel? Because it's all directly relevant. There's a link that kind of takes through from almost some of the stories that Canto and Other Poems tried talking about. Spoke about very successfully. And in many ways, The Night Alphabet is a really beautiful extension of that. And so it takes as its core idea somebody at the beginning of the book getting a tattoo, and their tattoo they want to have kind of really tell various stories of their life. This is sort of a future, it's sort of set in the future, in that part at least. But then what that opens up is tons of retellings of stories from across her life, through the sort of narrator's life. And what comes up from that is just so fascinating for what it does. It opens on this idea of trying to enter blood into ink and ink into blood within this tattoo. And the sort of idea right from the beginning that the body is sort of a page on which you can write in ink, physically with a tattoo, but also, our stories being imposed on our skin and sort of told through our skin. And she opens up through this into this really beautiful kind of just set of stories that I just think are phenomenal in so many ways in terms of what they say, particularly what they say about gender, about violence, and about sexuality and various other things, particularly power as well, how power shows up. And there's something just so mystifying for me about this collection, about this novel, in such a beautiful way. So, taking this core idea of telling these stories, we kind of get these flashbacks through various parts of this narrator's life, and these go back, long distances, often several hundred years. And so this kind of narrator is this very odd kind of mythical character who's sort of seen everything and kind of is this almost oracle for us of bits of history. And I think what's so fascinating is about the way it then threads so much through. So we get tales specifically about masculinity and men, both in terms of sort of a rugged working class masculinity of various times, but also venturing into talking about incels and talking about sexual violence through them. It also talks a lot about various women claiming their sexuality, claiming their identities, and it just does something really incredible. It almost feels like it takes, so there's a plane going by, and it takes this core idea of almost what Kanto was talking about in terms of telling these various stories of people, looking at the politics of power through them, and it just expands it in this gorgeous way throughout this novel. So much so that this book really just goes into so much territory that sometimes I was just bowled away by the kind of audacity of the novel in a really positive way, that I think Joelle Taylor is able to find the sort of hot button aspects of so many conversations and really investigate them on the page in a way that is utterly fearless. Her exploration of incels I found terrifying and horrifying to read. It was so visceral and gutsy on the page that it was just remarkable to see how she'd been able to achieve that, to sort of take something so raw and real and fraught with violence and danger, and to communicate it on the page in a way that didn't feel like she was sort of doing it for shock, or didn't feel like she was doing it for anything other than to really explore the reality of that issue, I think was so fearless. And I think this is what I have come to love about her writing, is there is an absolute desire to tell the truth and then to interrogate the hell out of that truth, to find even more truth. And I think the Night Alphabet does it so exquisitely, because she's just able to mine some of those aspects for some of the most complicated parts of day-to-day interactions, and particularly in the modern current times. I will also say something about the writing, in the sense that Joelle Taylor, obviously being a poet, you would expect high quality writing. And I think what is actually incredible about this novel is, for 400 and something pages, she keeps up this real intensity and beauty and richness of language, so that at times you almost feel like you're reading a book length poem, but like a novel length poem, like a long poem. And it's remarkable how she's able to do this. I think I mentioned when I sort of spoke about it in my weekly reviews, but it's an image that's really stuck with me. Whereas at one point she describes someone's smile as being like the shape of a hem of a skirt. And there's something so incredible about that image that, without kind of spending ages just really lingering on that, there's something about a skirt is such an unusual metaphor for a smile, but I entirely know what she means. There's something about the folds of a skirt or the hem of a skirt. There's something about the kind of associations we have with skirts and smiles and all these other things that just makes that such a startling image. And she just, like, paragraph after paragraph, there are just these exceptional turns of phrase that I just think are remarkable. I don't know how she does it, because this book, it's so easy for a book that has a lot of really rich, florid writing to feel dense and to feel unwieldy and to almost wear you out with how beautiful and how big and how flourishing it is. Somehow the Night Alphabet avoids that by having this real beauty and richness of language, but still never feeling like it's whacking you over the head with it. The imagery makes entire sense for these characters and their lives. They're startling metaphors, they're surprising, but they are authentic. And I think that's something that I find really profound about this book, is its ability to go into the depths of some of the darkest things and still find richness and beauty, and still be able to tell this in an unusual and startling way, where, again, this could be a story that would either go completely off the rails because of how how much it jumps around in time, or could so easily have become very stale with language. And instead it skirts this line so beautifully, and it is just remarkable to watch how it works as a book. And I'm overwhelmed by how well it does it. And I think that's the book's real strength here, is that it is able to talk about so many of these things. And again, without spoiling anything, some of the topics that we're going into, things like incels, things like the closure of gay bars, things like things about genetic modification, things about whatever else, all of these things do not sound like they could fit in a novel together, and do not sound like they would be able to be done in this rich poetic way without compromising something. And I think the amazing ability of someone like Joelle Taylor is that she never has to compromise, because she's that good. She is so incredibly skilled that she just pulls off some real masterstrokes with this novel. So I'm just completely, as you can maybe tell, completely in love with this book. I already, we're in what, like mid-March. Like, I already think this is going to be one of my books of the year, hands down. I think it's just one of the most stunning and original things I've read in a good long while. And I think it has so much to say about power and violence and gender and sexuality and so many other things, that I really think this is a remarkable book. And if you do get the chance, please do check it out. I've also heard that the audiobook is done by Joelle Taylor. If you get the opportunity to have that, do it, because Joelle Taylor, honestly, I've seen her perform, I think twice, something from Kunto, and I've cried both times. I'm weeping I'm weeping thinking about it now, because she is that good when she performs, particularly when she talks about the titular poem from that collection. And there's a section where she talks specifically about the sort of women who are no longer here, and holding on, kind of carrying on the torch of their memory. And it is just one of the most profound things. So yeah, before I start weeping, do check out this book. It's remarkable, and I hope you enjoy it if you do get around to it. Take care. I've been Bob the Booker, and speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.